The first episode of the Haas Talks Roadshow takes us to none other than Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. We find ourselves inside of this lovely, lovely place, BKM Injection Services. Kenny Koelsch. Kenny, thanks for finally making some time for me to come by. I mean, every time I come by here, you're never here. You're either at nap time or lunchtime or snack time or something.
Well, you don't want to be at work, that's for sure.
That's for sure, but I feel like this place right here isn't really work. I feel like it's a labor of love for sure.
It's definitely better than a lot of alternatives.
So let's just rewind a little bit because you've been around racing a long, long time, more than a couple of years. So just a quick, brief synopsis. How did you get started in this stuff, and how long have you really been doing it? I mean, I know dirt's pretty old, and you're right there with it, but
getting close. So, like when I started racing, or just in micros?
When you started racing, when you got that bug.
I started racing when I was 14 on motocross three-wheelers.
So you are crazy, because those things are pretty wild.
It was a challenge. Yeah.
So 14 years old, what made you say, hey, Mom and Dad, I want to ride three-wheelers? Like, what brought that up?
Well, I started riding three-wheelers when I was in third grade, and just, done that around a lot, grew up on a dairy farm, and did all that kind of stuff. And I had a buddy that motocross raced and said, you need to come out to Allen Ranch in Bixby, Oklahoma, and do some motocross easy.
So you're born and raised in the Tulsa area, right?
Yep, Locust Grove, Oklahoma.
Locust Grove. There's another race car guy out there.
There is one there.
Pursley or something like that.
Yep. So fun fact there, I grew up with his dad and mom. His mom and I, she's maybe a year or two younger than me. His dad graduated with my sister, so I've known them
very long time.
Long time.
So 14 years old, you get into that. When did you did you go to did you race mini stocks? Are you one of those guys, or did you go straight into the micro sprints?
So started on three-wheelers, and it was actually Pete Frazier that kept me into racing, and just had a little chat with me and at the racetrack, and got me hooked, and I stayed in it and did three-wheelers into four-wheelers, and did pretty decent on four-wheelers for quite a few years, and had a bad wreck at an indoor race. We used to have, before the shootout, we had maybe 2 years a race on Thanksgiving weekend, and crashed pretty bad at that. And Pete says, you need a roll cage around you. So at the shootout, I bought Kip Guthrie's micro.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're throwing in some names.
Yep. So that's how I got in it.
Then you get into the whole micro scene and everything else. When did it evolve into were you dead set that you were going to work in this industry that you're in? I mean, you have a machine shop, you have the injection service now. It's kind of snowballed into a couple of different things, but we'll talk about that some more. But when was it that all that kind of came together?
It was quite a while later. I just did my own thing, built some cars, my own I didn't build very many, 10 or 12, something like that, and the old American chassis stuff. And then still just that's how I got into machining, was machine shop couldn't keep up, and I just walked in, and honestly they just said, well, we don't have the people, so there's the machine. If you want to try to do it, get after it. So I just walked over and just started machining parts, and kind of a weird deal.
When was that? How old were you then?
That was 2003.
Wow.
2004. Yeah.
So that's a long time.
Been a little while.
If my math is right, that's about 20 years.
20 years. Yep. So that's when I was making money in micros instead of just spending it. Yeah.
Very lightly using the quotation marks.
So I had a small trucking company at the time, and if as long as my trucks were running, then I didn't have anything to do, so I worked on race cars.
Very cool.
So then, did all that, and got out of the trucking business, started a machine shop, and then just got hooked up with people in machining, with racing, and machining parts, and then just kind of went from there. And then Justin Blevins and I decided to build a car together, and I put injection on it, and things kind of went well there. And he asked me if I'd help him on his, and I did. And then people kind of started asking him about stuff, and he sent them to me. And then he says, "You need to start charging people for this stuff."
Right.
And that's how BKM Machine Injection came about.
So have you always been like a really hands-on type of guy with, as far as like knowing the mechanics and the workings of engines and injection and all this other stuff?
Yes, definitely.
Have you always been like an injection fan, or were you like a carburetor guy back in the day?
I used to build my own carburetor. Still got my last set I ran on the shelf over there. So the last set of carburetors I built myself.
Those things are pretty scarce.
They are, yep. Actually had them on Chris Andrews' car for a little while.
So let's talk about that, since we've kind of gotten the backstory of where you got started, how it all came about, and everything else. Let's talk about racing now versus racing then, and how big of a change it has come with just here in the last 3 or 4 years. It's kind of grown and exploded into a lot of technicality stuff whenever it comes down to that injection and all that good stuff.
Yes, it's definitely a lot different than it used to be. But used to, we all worked on our own race cars. Now there's not as many people out there that can work on their own thing, on their own car. Like they used to be able to. That's what we had to do. But now there's a lot of people out there that take care of race cars and come drive my car and pay me to do that. So things have definitely changed. A lot more money in the industry than there used to be. Whenever
it comes down to this whole programming and EC this and pin that and cut this wire and everything else, what was it about that kind of got you drawn into it? Was it just something that a supply and demand type of thing, or was it something that you were like really interested in?
I'd say interested in. I'm never been scared of computers at all, and they don't intimidate me for the most part. So I just didn't shy away from it, and that's how I just kind of got into it. But we still have the mechanical stuff too, so doesn't take as many wires for those.
Right.
So got to work on those too.
So over the course of the last 20 years, you've kind of grown into a pretty popular guy, not only on the racetrack, winning races and doing different things there, but also off the racetrack with your whole tuning and dynoing and injection service and everything else. Whenever it comes down to dynoing, I just got to sit here and witness you dyno a car tonight. Is it really that intricate where one little thing makes that big of adjustment? Because I saw you punching numbers, and I was taking pictures to try and sell online to my OnlyFans account, but I don't know if I got the right pictures or not. But is it really that small of adjustments, or does it take big ballpark changes?
It could go either way. It just depends on how far off the tune is to start with. So sometimes you have to take big swings at it, and then when you get that refined to just making small changes to try to get everything you can out of it. So
there's a lot of brands out there, a lot of brand names, whether it be in the engine world, from metric cycle racing engines to a specialized power plant. Everybody's doing their own thing. Same instance with the whole programming and ECUs and everything. Yes. You've got PE3, Performance Electronics, which is a proud supporter of the old show here, so I got to give them a shout out. But you also got the whole Fuel Tech coming into the scene now, and while, yes, they are the same in similar instances, they both have their specific needs that may meet something that somebody really needs. What is the biggest difference that you see coming into now, the new era of programming and ECUs and everything, traction control? We got to hit on that one, right? We got to nip that one in the butt now, you people watching. Traction control is no good. It can't even be done. It can be done on your mom's Honda, right?
Yep. It already is down in your mom's Honda.
Yeah. Whoa, how do you know? How'd you know my mom's car's a Honda?
Because there's a button that says traction control in your car.
You're right. Yeah. So anyways, let's talk about that a little bit, because the whole fuel injection, Fuel Tech, has come out with their new dash and everything else, and people are saying, oh, there's traction control on that.
And there's traction control on, sorry to say, your PE3. There's traction control on your factory ECUs. It's all there and available. And it just just because it's there and available doesn't mean it's used. The only way they can work is you have to have a secondary speed sensor, whether it's, it's going to have to be compare your rear axle to your front axle, or your front axle, front tire to your engine speed. There's speed sensors in your engine. Yes, there's speed sensors in your engine, but you still have to compare that to your front tires rolling. There has to be a comparison for traction control to work. So it's no different now than it was 10, 15 years ago. A racetrack still has to monitor your sensors on your race car and look for a secondary wheel sensor, or else it's not going to work.
So all this hib jab and blue blah of people online saying, oh no, a guy can go in there on race night and tap into a system and change everything around. Is that possible? And do you even foresee people being smart enough to do that, to figure that out? Because I wouldn't be able to figure it out.
It can get pretty technical, but you can change, your tunes in your car throughout the night, whatever you want to do there, but to change it around to put traction control on, we're still introducing, you got to have another speed sensor. It's not gonna be capable.
So, in your opinion, you're a guy that does change, works with ECUs and everything else. Do you do that on your personal car that's sitting here? You're at the racetrack, and are you over there tuning and changing programming on the car? Or are you more worried? Should they be more worried about what stagger they've got, what rollout, and whatever?
They definitely need to worry about their race car more than they do their tuning on their race car, on their engine. If it's properly tuned, not saying by me, I'm saying by anybody, if it's properly tuned, go to the racetrack and race, and worry about your race car setup, and quit worrying about your injection or your carburetors or whatever it is. As long as it's running good, you need to worry about your race car. You need to spend more time on your race car than you do your injection.
And that's kind of where, my opinion, and some people in the world in the realm of this that I talk to have kind of told me and agreed with me is, they spend more time jibbing their jaw than they do working on their car, and that's where it all comes into play. I come in here and I look over this car, and it looks like it hasn't even seen the light of day in probably 15 years, but you just had it out at practice, and wham, bam. How did the car run? How did it all go? I know you weren't necessarily in this one, that you were in one way or another. You were in a car.
Yes, I was.
No pun intended.
Exactly. Driver Monty Frey drove this past Saturday in hot laps or practice, and he was very pleased. And guess what? They never touched the injection at all. You
never had to go over there with your laptop and hook up to it and Bluetooth to it and make any changes.
No,
none. Zero.
And the car I drove, 0 changes.
So that brings me back to another thing. You're back in the saddle. Do you even consider yourself ever fully retired, or were you just taking a break?
I thought I retired.
But you were thought otherwise.
Well, I like to have fun.
Yeah.
So this is fun to me. I've driven other things. I have done some stock car stuff, modified stuff back in the day, and there's nothing like a micro, in my opinion. This is the funnest thing there is to drive.
What do you think about the micros makes it so fun and exciting?
Close racing, and things happen really fast.
Yeah. So, it was I saw the trophy over there a couple of years ago. You just showed up out of nowhere, and I remember this night very, very, very good, because I was like, there's no way Kenny Koelsch is going to come out here and even run with these guys. And you came out and you proved me wrong, and you smoked them freaking fast. Was it just like riding a bike, or were you rusty? And then talk to me about running that car on Saturday, that one-way performance chassis. You said in your Facebook post that it practically drove itself, which I don't believe, because I've seen those cars in action and other drivers driving them, and they don't practically drive themselves.
It seemed to with me. That car just got around the racetrack very well. I didn't have to do any corrections. It's what I would call it, to make it go where it needed to go. It went where it needed to, pretty much on its own. You got a hold of the steering wheel, and you're just kind of doing a little correction and keeping it where you want to be, but it just did well. I was very impressed with it.
Now, is there a chance that we might see Kenny Koelsch in a race car in a race instead of just a piddly fart practice?
There's a slight possibility, yeah.
If we can find some shoes, maybe.
That was an issue.
That was an issue, but we got some new ones coming, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, they might have showed up today. So.
Oh man,
so,
I'm liking where this is going. I'm digging it. I'm totally digging it.
As long as the wife doesn't veto it, we're in good shape.
Well, what she doesn't know won't hurt.
I made sure I told her because I might have not have told her everything about Saturday. I kind of just thought she knew, but I had buddies, trying to help me along the way.
Out.
Yes, I got a lot of those.
Ratted you out. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
But no, we'll be out this weekend.
So. We just broke the news here. He'll be out this weekend. That's what I'm talking about. That sounds really exciting. You've seen a lot of kids grow up through the sport and everything else. And do you feel like that's what attracts you really to micro racing too? Is like you're able to kind of see these kids grow from the restrictor into the A class to the outlaw, and then some of them move on to race with the World of Outlaws.
Or NASCAR.
Or NASCAR. You've been there too. So Christopher Bell's a former client of yours.
Yes. Still is.
Still is. Yeah, because he does have the micros. You had Ryan Timms. He's been out here several times and doing things here. In this world of injection and everything else and tuning and whatnot, where do you see it going from here? Do you see it getting any broader or any bigger? Is there anything on the horizons that you're like really chomping at the bit, some new latest, greatest technology, and do you stay on top of it, and how do you stay on top of it?
That's where it's tough. I see, just like the Fuel Tech, the PE3 stuff. I see that as a necessary evil because all the stock ECU stuff is getting more and more difficult to come by. We had to do something because eventually we're going to run out, which is also I feel a concern of a 600cc motor. They don't make them anymore.
Right.
We're going through a lot of them. So I think eventually we got to address that issue to figure out what we're going to do about that. What's the next step? I don't know. I have my opinions, but I won't get into that today, but it doesn't matter. But it concerns me with all the stock stuff being not available or more and more difficult to get. We had to do something to fight that battle, and that's where the PE3 and the Fuel Tech comes into play and
kind of changes things up a little bit.
It does.
Car counts keep on growing. Kids keep on cycling through. I think that it's something, like you said, it's a necessary evil, but it keeps the sport rolling, and I'm glad that that it is rolling still the way that it is. We're going to go into a little segment here that we were going to bring to us by Same Day Tire and Auto. It's our rapid fire questions. So I'm going to give you a couple of options, and you're going to tell me which one that you would prefer. Are you a heavy track or a dry slick track driver?
Dry slick.
Do you change shocks more or stagger more?
Shocks.
Wing or non-wing?
Oh, I'm truly at heart a non-wing guy.
Truly at heart a non-wing guy. There's nothing wrong with that.
I literally won the first non-wing race at Port City.
Really?
Yes.
We need to mark that one down in the history books. Mark that 1905.
Something like that.
Right?
1910,
right. 1910.
Yeah.
Okay. 1910, first non-wing feature winner right there. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl.
Night owl.
No question.
That's why, I'm an early bird, and that's why every time I come by here, you're never here. That's why I always miss you. Are you more of, do you like the breakfast foods, or are you more like a big supper guy?
I could eat breakfast any time of the day, but still nothing like a steak and potato.
You're a big steak and potato guy.
I am.
How do you have your steak cooked?
Medium rare.
Medium rare? Mm-hmm. You like a little bit of the moo?
Well, I want it done.
You want it done, but you still want the juice.
Yes.
Are you a fully loaded baked potato guy, or are you just like, just give me a little bit of butter and salt and pepper?
Butter, salt, pepper, and extra butter.
And extra butter.
Yeah.
There you go. If you had to choose between orange juice or milk, what would you go with?
Gotta go with milk.
Milk. White milk, mama's milk, or chocolate milk?
White milk.
White milk, me too. Are you a hamburger or hot dog guy?
Hamburger.
Ketchup or mustard?
Ketchup.
Oh, man. I knew there was something about you.
Not on a hot dog, though. It's got to be mustard.
Okay. There we go. Winner, chicken dinner. Most memorable moment in racing?
Man. I don't know. There's a lot of them. I've got a lot of good friends in racing. The whole cliche of, it's the racing family. It is. That's where all my friends are, is in racing. So there's a lot of good memories. What's crazy, Chris Andrews winning, the Terry Sprague. That was a great night. I probably winning probably the AMA Grand Nationals on the four-wheeler in 1988. Pretty high up there on my list.
So I'm going to share my most memorable moment of Kenny Koelsch.
Mm-hmm.
My most memorable moment of Kenny Koelsch was you playing the national anthem at Port City and your son carrying the stars and stripes around the racetrack. To me, that is probably the most coolest thing that I've ever been able to be a part of and experience.
Mm-hmm.
That, and anytime you play the national anthem, it just gives you goosebumps just thinking about it. It's crazy.
Thank you.
Which, by the way, is so cool that you saved that just for the Chili Bowl, that you made that deal
Mm-hmm.
with Fuzz, and you're sticking to your guns. Because I've tried to get you to do it at Port again. I've tried to get you to record it, and you won't do it. You say that's your one moment, your one time. A lot of people out there know Kenny Koelsch, right? A lot of them know the name. A lot of them know what you do and everything else. What is something that you would tell a younger generation, a younger driver coming up through the ranks, or just getting started in racing, or maybe even a parent, because you've been the dad of a race car driver too? What's like some piece of advice that you could give to a driver or parent?
Man, just don't put so much into it every night. Try the same deal. Just try to have fun. That gets lost in racing a lot. We get so competitive with it, and now you have all the new, not all the new, but a lot of new people coming in that this is a stepping stone, for them, and to move on to bigger races. There's not a lot of Christopher Bells, Kyle Larsons out there like everybody seems to think they have. And when they do that, they kind of go overkill on what they're doing, and they lose touch with why they should be there. Go to the racetrack and make it a family deal, and keep your kids from maybe doing things they shouldn't do, and have a better path in life than had they not have racing in their life.
That's perfect. There's a lot more memories than there are Christopher Bells and Kyle Larsons out there. So that's what I would like people to remember whenever we go out grassroots racing, is that you're there. I can remember whenever I was 14 and 15 going to the races, and those are memories that I'll always have to cherish. How can people get a hold of BK Injection Services?
Give me a call, 918-695-8938.
We need to make you a little jingle.
Get after it.
If you're ready to get steady, give us a call at 918-695-8938. Doot, doot.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good. Record it, watch it. Kenny Koelsch right here, BK Injection Services.
Performance Electronics, custom electronic solutions. From design to manufacturing, let us put your ideas in motion and become your company's full-service electronics manufacturing experts. Performance Electronics.